And number 10, we have Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt had several odd jobs before he made it as an actor. While Chris spent some of his time living in a van in Hawaii, the star could be found working as a babysitter, a server, lawnmower, and he was also a stripper. Chris would tell BuzzFeed in 2013 that being a stripper allowed him to be free and to make money while he was doing it, and he was never embarrassed about being one. After all, he did get his job at the age of 18 after he auditioned to become one. He also revealed that he even stripped at a grandmother's birthday party for $40 back in the day, and while the star has gone to call himself an average dancer, the grandmother definitely appreciated the gesture. At number 9, we have Channing Tatum. Now, fans of Channing Tatum are aware that the actor was an exotic dancer before he starred in movies like 21 Jump Street and Step Up. Before Channing rose to fame, he used to perform at a strip club in Tampa, Florida. A video sold to US Weekly in 2009 showed Channing dancing for guests who were clearly pleased. In 2011, Channing would sit down in an interview with GQ, and he would explain that he was never ashamed, nor did he regret one thing about being a stripper back in the day. He also states that he doesn't miss anything about stripping. The star would strip in front of 25 girls and said there was nothing glamorous about it whatsoever. However, Magic Mike would definitely prove otherwise. Are you enjoying this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And number 8, we have Courtney Love. Courtney Love earned her success as a solo artist as a lead singer and guitarist in the 90s rock band Hole. Aside from being married to Kurt Cobain, Courtney was popular for releasing hits such as Malibu. However, while most know Courtney for her hit singles, many don't know that Courtney used to work at Jumbo's and Seventh Veil as an exotic dancer. The singer used to make around $300 a day, and she would be able to use her earned money to help her fund her band. However, the singer has stated that due to low income, that she did have to be extremely financially savvy before she was able to make it as an artist.
In at number 6, Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah has been pretty open about his shocking past within his comedy specials, but if you're unaware, allow me to explain. Trevor grew up in South Africa under the apartheid regime. What made his upbringing extremely difficult was the fact that his father was white and his mother was black. Interracial marriages were only made legal a year after Noah was born, and they were generally frowned upon in South African society. Well, frowned upon is probably putting it a little too lightly. This meant that his mother often had to pretend that she was his nanny while in public places, and his father had to walk on the opposite side of the street even. Trevor's mother would end up marrying another man in 1992 that she would go on to have another 2 sons with. Although Noah had to watch as his mother was physically abused by her new husband. At one point, he even witnessed his stepdad shoot his mother in the leg and then in the back of the head. Miraculously, she survived this attack when the bullet narrowly missed her spinal cord, brain, and really any major nerves and blood vessels for that matter. After his new dad threatened to do the same to him, Trevor said enough is enough and he left and moved to Los Angeles. In at number 5, Robert Downey Jr. At this point, it's pretty common knowledge that RDJ had a history of drug addiction, but what most people don't realize is that his issues all began at 6 years old. His father was a filmmaker and drug addict who gave his young son a joint to smoke at the age of 6. Downey claims that he was surrounded by drugs as a young kid and often used drugs as a way to bond with his troubled father. He believed that when they did drugs together, it was his father's way of expressing love for him in the only way that he knew how. He nearly ended his acting career after being arrested several times for possession of cocaine, heroin, and marijuana use before spending a year in prison in 1999, which meant the cancellation of several acting jobs. After struggling even more with drug abuse between 2001 and 2003, Downey finally was able to kick the habit through a combination of the 12-step recovery program, meditation, yoga, and martial arts training. In at number 4, Shania Twain. As a child, country singer Shania Twain had to watch her mother Sharon endure physical abuse for years at the hands of her stepdad Jerry Twain. The singer has spoken previously of an incident where her stepdad, who legally adopted her at age 4, shoved her mother's head into a toilet. She actually thought that he had killed her. She began going through the shock and experience of really believing that her mother had died at that moment, which was only followed by the humiliation of believing that she had been killed by drowning in a toilet. Long before her super status, Shania stayed in a Toronto homeless shelter with her mother and siblings. Later on, when she turned 16 years old, she found shelter by sleeping in buses and vacant homes. For a long time, she used to detach herself from her shocking past, but over time, she has come to terms with this, that it's just kind of part of who she is. Not only that, but it was a motivating factor to become successful in her industry, which she definitely has.
At number 3, we have Amber Rose. While some celebrities decide to brush their past right under the carpet, Amber Rose has always chosen to speak her mind away about them. One career Amber has always been very vocal about is the fact that she used to be a stripper. In an interview, she even claimed that she had some of her best times in her life while she was an exotic dancer, and she's even given some words of wisdom for anybody looking to join the field. The multi-talented singer has suggested that as long as anybody's looking to get into the field goes in with their heads up, stays sober, and focuses on making money, then the job will be like any other. She's also advised that anybody who's comfortable with their body should give it a try right away. After stripping, Amber would then move on to modeling and then to acting. At number 2 we have Trina. American singer Trina never wanted to do anything with music. So after high school she wanted to pursue a career in real estate. However, when she accompanied her friends to shoot a music video, another musician noticed her and asked her if she ever wanted to give music a try. Trina would initially decline, however she would later agree, and the rest is history. Now before Trina became a musician, she has admitted that she tried dancing for money but quickly realized it was never for her. Her career barely lasted a week before she decided to officially opt out. And at number 1 today we have Kat Stacks. After being born in Venezuela, Kat Stacks would relocate to the United States when she was just 8 years old. She would then grow into the sensational rapper and hip-hop musician she is today. Apart from her music career, Kat has had a pretty controversial lifestyle, and she's even tried her hand at exotic dancing. In an interview with 97.9 FM radio, Kat revealed that she was a stripper at the age of, and she recounts her time in her as a stripper as traumatizing, and that she just did whatever she could to get by. Since entering into the industry, the rapper has never been short to surprise the world with scandals and controversies.
Starting off our list at number 10 is Dylan Sprouse. You would know him and his twin brother Cole Sprouse from the Disney Channel's The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and then all of their other Disney appearances after that. At the height of their career, it was reported that they were earning $40,000 per episode. In 2011, the twins pulled away from the public eye in an ordinary fashion. In 2013, some customers were startled at a coffee shop in the East Village when Dylan Sprouse was pouring lattes and craft beers. Turns out that Dylan went on to study at NYU, which is where he developed a passion for brewing. He did an internship for some time at a Brooklyn bourbon distillery and has a passion for mead in particular. He is now running his own brewery, which he added into the William Vale Hotel in Williamsburg, called the All Wise Meadery. During an interview with Vanity Fair in 2018, he refers to acting as a commission type job and says that the meadery provides a stable paycheck. He also admitted that he often gets compared to his brother Cole Sprouse, who landed a lead role as Jughead in the hit TV series Riverdale. When asked about the show, he said, "Don't tell my brother, but I've only seen the first episode." At number 9 is Danny Lloyd. For decades, horror fans have still been asking author Stephen King what happened to the kid actor from The Shining. Well, I'm here to give you the unscary truth. He became a pig farmer and a science teacher. The actor at the time was only 5 years old, and now he's in his 40s, married, and a father of 6. In 2013, he did his first interview since he was a kid with Daily News, where he opened up about his normal life. He said that people don't recognize him when he goes out in public. He explains that he did continue acting but ended up giving it up when he was a teenager. Danny says he enjoyed being in the movie but went on to work at a local Walmart and drove a tractor on a hog farm. Now he teaches biology at a community college outside of Louisville. He watched The Shining for the first time when he was 16 with a group of friends and says that he wasn't spooked. Swiping the number 8 spot is Nikki Blonsky, also known as Tracy Turnblad from Hairspray, starring alongside Zac Efron and John Travolta. The musical film came out back in 2007, which marked her first on-screen acting role. After that, you might have watched her in the short-lived ABC Family series called Huge. Since then, she booked smaller roles here and there, but it wouldn't be enough to support someone as a full-time income. In 2011, the actress did an interview with E! And said that she worked at a shoe store in New York City and was later on hired as a cosmetologist at a hair salon. She went on to get her cosmetology license, and she began working part-time as a hairstylist and makeup artist in between auditions. She tweeted out that she works these jobs to pay the bills but will not lose sight of her dreams.
In at number 7, Ted Hawkins. Most of the celebrities on this list are riches to rags stories, but for Ted Hawkins, he went from homeless to famous and then back to being homeless. Ted was born and lived in Mississippi for the majority of his life, and at an early age he had some run-ins with the law and was even arrested and sent to prison at 15 years old. Once getting out of jail, he lived as a hobo traveling by train up and down the East Coast. Eventually he found his way to Los Angeles because he assumed being homeless in a warmer climate would be better. Ted loved music, and whatever little money that he made was from playing his guitar on the streets. It was there where he was discovered by a record producer who was able to help Ted make his first and only studio album. Before he passed away in 1995, Ted was able to live out his dream of playing music around the world. In at number 6, Anthony Ciccone. Beginning his professional career as an actor in TV and film before moving into a career behind the camera, he was primarily recognized for being Madonna's brother. He soon was thrusted back into the spotlight in 2013 when he was arrested and charged with felony resisting and obstructing a police officer. Anthony had been living on the streets of Michigan, the city where he and his sister once grew up. However, while Madonna has the key to the city, Anthony doesn't even have keys to a home. He also seems very resistant to any help from his sister. There are several videos online of people recognizing the star's brother on the streets and asking what he thinks about his uber famous sister.
I don't talk to my sister much. I don't pay much attention to her music. We're not really buddies.
In at number 5, Fantasia. After winning the 3rd season of American Idol, Fantasia Barrino was set up to have a fantastic career in the music industry. Her first album, called Free Yourself, even received 3 Grammy nominations. However, by 2009, her $1.1 million home in North Carolina was being auctioned off to repay her massive debts. After defaulting on a $58,000 loan from Broward Energy Management, Fantasia was forced to give up everything. While promoting her VH1 reality series Fantasia for Real in 2010, she was asked about rumors by CNN surrounding Simon Cowell coming in to bail her out. She did not outright deny that she required help from the American Idol creator, but instead she urged people to watch the show to find out. So yeah, he definitely helped her out. In at number 4, Ed McMahon. This comedian and former sidekick to Johnny Carson built a wonderful career for himself in entertainment. He was well known for gifting millions in sweepstake prizes, but in 2008, Ed started to be the one that needed the money. Lenders started going after him after he missed several payments on his $4.8 million home loan that totaled nearly $700,000. During an interview with Larry King, he was asked how he went broke, for which Ed replied, "Well, if you spend more money than you make, you know what happens. A couple divorces thrown in, a few things like that. You want everything to be perfect, but that combination of the economy, I have a little injury, I have a situation, and it all came together. Or it all came undone."
Taking over the number 3 spot is Jeff Cohen, famously known for his role as Chunk in The Goonies. The classic movie came out in 1995, and he continued his acting career up until 1991. When asked why he left the industry, he cracks jokes saying that puberty forced him into early retirement as a child actor. He explains that as he got older, finding work was a lot more difficult. Once acting was out of the picture, he found a passion for law and attended the University of California, Berkeley, earning a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. The former actor went on to become a lawyer, and in 2008 he was actually named one of the top 35 executives under 35 years of age. He continues to be a successful lawyer and says that acting has benefited his legal career because it makes him more empathetic for his clients and less academic. At number 2, we have Chris Owens. Back in 1999, the actor made a name for himself by playing Chuck Sherman, aka the Shermanator, in the hit comedy movie American Pie. He reprised the role for all of the films and even in the spin-off American Pie Presents Bandcamp. Outside of the franchise, he had other success in shows like Seventh Heaven and The Mentalist. However, his career faded and he was off the Hollywood radar for a number of years. In 2014, New York Daily News reported that he was working as a waiter in a restaurant in California. In the interview, he said, "Life doesn't always go the way you planned. I love acting and this job lets me stay in the fight." The good news is the article actually helped him book 2 small film roles after it was published. Since then, he's been able to pop up in a few things here and there, but like the rest of us, he said he has to work jobs that pay the bills. Taking our number 1 spot is Frankie Muniz, who you might know as Malcolm from the classic TV series Malcolm in the Middle. The show ran from 2000 to 2006 and is basically what put him on the map in the acting world. He did other movies like Big Fat Liar, Agent Cody Banks, and Sharknado. He had a wildly successful career. His acting resume is stacked with a number of different credits, which is why I was so stunned when I read an article headline saying Frankie Muniz trades acting for olive oil. I'm sorry, what? There is no way that that can be real. I thought it was some sort of weird meme or something, but turns out it is very much real. His acting isn't his main focus anymore, although you might see him popping up in some projects once in a while. Turns out him and his fiancée Paige Price own a olive oil shop called Outrageous Olive Oils and Vinegars in Old Town Scottsdale. If you go, you will spot a familiar face sitting behind the register. The now 32-year-old says, "We had been customers at the store before and we just knew we liked the product and we wanted to do something together. Now it's become our lives." The former actor, who was once practically drowning in fame, money, and success, says that he found a new passion: payroll. He said, "I love doing payroll. I love doing anything with the financials. I'm a numbers guy, so this has been like a dream come true for me." Who would have thought?
In at number 10, John Drew Barrymore. The son of the famous actor John Barrymore, as well as the father to Drew Barrymore, didn't exactly have the best life. Throughout his career as an actor, he was always being compared to the famous celebrities within his family tree. It probably also didn't help that his name is essentially a combination of both of their names. After struggling to book major roles, John eventually gave up on acting, but this didn't mean that he had a direction or new career path. Barrymore essentially became a homeless drifter. As his daughter was finding massive success in Hollywood, John would disappear and then end up in jail for either drug abuse or public intoxication. Sadly, he passed away from cancer in 2004. In at number 9, Debbie Clark. Also known by the name Storm, this celebrity was once a super athlete on the show American Gladiators back when he was big in the late 80s and early 90s. The show would pit various athletic contenders against one another in a series of physical competitions. Storm had performed on the show for 3 years before suffering a brutal injury that would ultimately end her career as a gladiator. For years following her moment in the sun, Clark would go from job to job. She tried working as a personal trainer, a chef, and even dabbled with country music. Although after years of career changes combined with the fact that she receives no royalty checks from the show, Debbie ended up on the streets. Reportedly, she has been living on the streets of San Diego with her son. In at number 8, Natasha Lyonne. Natasha had her breakthrough moment in acting at the age of 7 when she became a regular on the show Pee-wee's Playhouse. Following that, in her late teens, Lyonne was booking acting jobs at an enormous pace. Her biggest role though was when she booked the movie American Pie. For a while after that though, Natasha was in a dark place. First, she was arrested for drunk driving, then reports started coming out that the star was homeless. Additionally, she had been hospitalized with some very serious health issues that included hepatitis C, a heart infection, a collapsed lung, and methadone treatment, something that's typically used for only people that are addicted to heroin. Thankfully, she has made a comeback with her role in Orange is the New Black, but we can only hope that this harmful pattern of behavior is done for good.
Taking our number 7 spot is Jenny Garth, the successful actress whose career first started all the way back in 1990 when she landed a lead role on the TV series Beverly Hills 90210. As the years went on, her acting career continued all the way until 2014. Since then, the actress has booked some smaller projects every 2 years, but she was unable to have acting as her full-time career. She turned her focus onto building a business of her own. On May 3rd, 2017, she launched her business MomGiftBox.com, which she described as an online subscription box full of products to indulge, inspire, and pamper moms, with every purchase benefiting a charity. In 2018, she collaborated with Dune Jewelry and launched Traveling Heart Collection. She is now a full-time owner of thegiftbox.com, which is an online-based gift subscription service for everyone, not just moms. It was recently announced that her hit show Beverly Hills 90210 was coming back, and she was able to reprise her role. It's weird that acting has actually become her side job now. She takes on acting projects just whenever she can. In the last 3 years, she's only booked 2 other smaller projects. Halfway through at number 5 is Sarah Michelle Gellar, known for many of her roles but mainly for playing Buffy Summers on the TV hit series Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She took home 5 Teen Choice Awards and a Golden Globe nomination for her role. She was recognized as one of the greatest female characters in US television. After the show ended in 2003, she continued to book roles in movies and other TV series, but over some time, her acting career just kinda slowly died down. Looking at her credits, it doesn't seem like acting was her full-time career over the past 5 years. That's probably because in 2015 she co-funded a company called Foodsters, a food crafting brand. Her time and attention began going towards food and cooking, and in 2017 she released her own cookbook called Stirring Up Fun with Food. Her company Foodsters has been a huge success. In 2018, the brand got a deal with Starbucks to carry Foodsters mug cake mixes across 8,000 of its stores. She continues to work on her food business, but also makes appearances on television, so she hasn't completely given up acting. It's just not her full-time gig anymore.
In at number 3, MC Hammer. Apparently telling the government you can't touch this when they ask you to pay taxes is the wrong thing to do. In 1990, Forbes magazine estimated the rapper was worth a whopping $33 million. Reportedly, he had owed the IRS nearly $800,000 in back taxes. Plus, he was also spending his fortune at an enormous pace. He had a staff of 200 people that cost him a staggering $500,000 a month just to keep. Plus, he decided to splurge on a custom mansion that would end up totaling $30 million. After being plagued by lawsuits, the Hammer ended up filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and during an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, he said, "It's time to close out old business and stop being the lottery for people who see MC Hammer as this big celebrity with a bottomless pit of dreams for people." God damn. Imagine you start feeling like the lottery. It's only a matter of time before you file for bankruptcy. In at number 2, Toni Braxton. Even though Toni had sold more than 40 million records, a shady business deal resulted in her receiving a measly $2,000 in royalties. After various financial woes, medical bills, and chronic health issues, Braxton was forced to file for bankruptcy in 1998. A source told Star magazine that Toni was so broke she couldn't even come up with her rent money. This insider also said that she's definitely at rock bottom and that she's so desperate for money that she's hoping to write a tell-all book about her life that she can get an early advance for. It seems like health issues really did play a major role in her unfortunate downfall. In 2008, she was forced to cancel her Las Vegas shows due to ongoing health issues, forcing her into bankruptcy again. She was able to make a kind of small comeback, but then by 2010 she was filing again for business and personal bankruptcy. Last but not least, in our number 1 spot, Wayne Newton. With a few big hits in the 1960s and growing his fame as a Las Vegas lounge singer, the most this celebrity earned was in 1983. However, by the time that we rolled around to 1992, Wayne Newton was going bankrupt and was $20 million in debt. The self-proclaimed Mr. Las Vegas was able to work himself out of debt, but the financial issues didn't end there. In 2005, he was sued by the IRS for failing to pay $1.8 million on the sale of his house. Additionally, his 40-acre property was seized in 2010 after he once again wasn't able to pay off the $3.35 million loan that he had taken on to purchase it. In order to pay off the debt, Newton was forced to turn his home into a public tourist attraction. Kinda humiliating, but hey, he should have saved his money better. In at number 10, Steve Jobs. The mastermind behind the massive success of Apple and really the technological advancement of smartphones can all be attributed to this man's vision. When Steve Jobs dropped out of Reed College, it left him without a dorm room to sleep in. He was so poor that he had to sleep on friends' floors and return Coke bottles to make whatever money that he could. During a speech at Stanford University, Jobs recalled walking 7 miles across town every Sunday night just to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna Temple. At the time of his death in 2011, the American inventor and business mogul had a net worth of $10.2 billion. In at number 9, Dr. Phil. Coming from very meager beginnings, Phil McGraw was homeless at the age of 12 when his father was interning as a psychologist. Dr. Phil and his father were living in a car in Kansas City while his father was trying to secure a job. McGraw would later get his own bachelor's, master's, and PhD, which would come important to his later career. On his rise to celebrity status though, Dr. Phil joined his father's psychology practice in Texas. Thanks to Oprah Winfrey inviting McGraw on her show in the 1990s, he would soon become a regular on the show. This would then lead to him being able to launch his very own successful advice program. In at number 8, Kelly Clarkson. Before winning the first season of American Idol, Clarkson suffered through a lot of hard times, which just makes her singing "Whatever Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger" feel all the more real. According to a 2011 New York Times profile of Kelly Clarkson, while the singer was in Los Angeles, she ended up living in her car after the apartment that she moved into caught fire. With little to no money and no contacts in LA, Kelly was forced to move back to her home state of Texas, although it was almost a blessing in disguise. Clarkson was able to audition for American Idol when they rolled through her state. I bet the next time that she went to Los Angeles though, it was pretty bittersweet. In at number 7, Sly Stone. At the peak of his career, Sly Stone was the biggest name in music. As the lead in the legendary funk band Sly and the Family Stone, he owned multiple homes throughout the United States. One of his properties was a full-on vineyard in Napa Valley. Although after being cheated out of millions of dollars in royalties, he was forced to start living in a van. Sly's record label confused him early on with contracts that he could never really understand. Without help and someone looking out for Sly, they essentially robbed him of everything. From 1989 to 2009, he received 0 royalty checks despite being responsible for hit songs like Everyday People and Dance to the Music. Thankfully, Sly's luck has turned around in 2016 when he was awarded $5 million in damages after suing his former manager and lawyer. In at number 6, Alex Lambert. This one is a bit of a debate, and depending on whose side you take, the stories are vastly different. Alex Lambert traveled from Texas to LA to pursue a career in music, and his first stop was an audition for American Idol. After coming up short and not winning that season, Lambert vowed to stay in LA until something happened with his music career. He has been quoted saying that he would rather live in his car than go home and give up on music. However, the PR at Idol production refuted that, saying that he's not homeless and that they don't know where that came from. The spokesperson added that Lambert had a development deal which meant that he should be able to pay for housing. In at number 5, Aram the Blade Barkley. Aram Barkley had an amazing boxing career, making a total of $5 million but his retirement was not so kind. With no money coming in and the industry not taking care of its legends, Barkley was left penniless and unemployed. Come 2010, the New York Post was reporting that the former boxing champ was now homeless after being evicted from his Bronx apartment. Thanks to the work and support of the Bronx nonprofit Bronx Works and the boxing charity Ring 10, they were able to set Barkley up with at least housing and some assistance. Before that though, we had a boxing legend that was sleeping in subway cars and anywhere he could find on the streets. In at number 4, Houston McTeer. He was once referred to as the world's fastest human after this two-time Olympic qualifier tied the world record for the 100-meter dash, a record of 9 seconds that he tied while still in high school. After leaving Florida for Los Angeles, he even tried his hand at boxing with masterclass coaching from the likes of Muhammad Ali and Harold Smith. Although when America decided to boycott the 1980 Summer Olympics, it left McTeer with no platform to stand on. Because of this, he fell into utter obscurity, drug abuse, and before long, homelessness. For a while though, he was found sleeping in various spots on Santa Monica Beach. In at number 3, Halle Berry. Halle Berry first moved to New York City to pursue a career in acting at 21 years old, although before she knew it she had run out of money and her mother decided that the best thing to do was not to send her daughter more cash. This then forced Berry to stay in a homeless shelter and learn to take care of herself. During an interview with Reader's Digest, she said, "It taught me how to take care of myself and that I could live through any situation, even if it meant going to a shelter for a small stint or living within my means, which were meager. I became a person who knows that I will always make my own way." And make her own way she did. Halle Berry has become one of the most iconic and successful actresses in Hollywood. Today she is one of the highest paid actresses in the entertainment industry and has an estimated net worth of $80 million. Last but not least, in our number 1 spot, Jim Carrey. According to his biography, actor and comedian extraordinaire was a high school dropout. Although it wasn't because he was failing. His father was a musician who got a regular job to support his children, but when he lost this job, that's when everything started to fall apart. They went from lower middle class to just poor. The entire family was living out of a van, and at the age of 15, Jim quit school to begin working to support his family as a janitor. Although when reflecting on his childhood, Jim said that it was during these tough financial times that he developed a sense of humor. As of 2020, his estimated net worth is $150 million, putting him on that small list of the richest comedians in the world.
Number 10, Terrence Howard. The actor is known for his captivating intensity on screen, and has certainly won him over with fans when he starred as Lucius on Empire. But sometimes art imitates life, and Howard's domineering character was very much a reflection of the actor behind him. His violent tendencies were pretty well hidden from the public eye until 2009, when the Smoking Gun reported that about 10 years prior, the actor was arrested for viciously beating up his estranged wife, Lori McComas. Lori dialed 911 after Howard threatened her over the phone, saying that he was going to come over and hurt her, but it was too late because before the police arrived, he had already broken down the front door of her house and attacked her, punching her in the face multiple times. The actor was charged and pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct, but the incident wasn't a one-off. In 2000, Howard reportedly attacked a flight attendant for asking him to return to his seat because the seatbelt sign was on, and in 2005 he attacked a couple at a diner because they were seated before him. In the years following, he allegedly harmed multiple intimate partners in some of the worst ways possible, but it was a long time before any of these incidents got in the way of his career. Number 9, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was a star of Terminator who eventually became the governor of California, so he definitely belongs in the world of the rich and famous. But few people know that Arnold Schwarzenegger was a very different person out of the spotlight. While he was married to veteran NBC journalist Maria Shriver since 1986, allegations of Arnold's behavior slowly began to surface, and suddenly his political career was facing ruin. In 2003, 15 women came forward claiming that the actor had them during his run for the California governor's seat. Then came the damage control. In an interview with Peter Jennings from ABC News, he tried to deny the accusations and insisted that no one ever came to him in his life and told him, "I don't want you to do that, and you went over the line." In fact, he went on to suggest that the women had actually timed the allegations specifically to match up with his campaign. But it gets worse. In 2011, an explosive Los Angeles Times report was published, revealing that Arnold had fathered a child with the family's housekeeper in the late 90s. It's safe to say that his marriage imploded because Maria filed for divorce on June the 2nd that same year.
Swiping spot number 7 is Andy Grammer. In 2018, the singer stopped by Us Weekly to chat about his new album and played a rapid-fire game of 25 things you didn't know about me. In the game, he revealed that his first job was at McDonald's. Unlike some of the other people on this list who enjoyed it, he said it was terrible. Now, when it comes to music, he is multi-talented. He can play the guitar, the piano, the trumpet, and he can even beatbox. But one thing he said he was never good at was flipping burgers, and he hated working at the fast food joint. So I guess it is a good thing that music worked out for him then. Halfway through number 5 is Mark Hamill. In April 2019, a Star Wars meme started floating around the internet referencing the upcoming movie, The Rise of Skywalker, and McDonald's French fries. The actor plays the iconic role of Luke Skywalker, so fans thought it was great that he shared the meme on his Twitter. But with the meme, he also shared the fact that he used to work there. He tweeted, "If you don't count Paperboy, the time I was hired to play Santa's helper in a department store, or the countless backyard puppet / magic / ventriloquist shows I did. My first real job was at McDonald's in Annandale, Virginia when I was 16. Hashtag minimum wage memories, hashtag the fries of Skywalker." I love how he's hashtagging minimum wage memories, like, oh, those good old minimum wage memories that I have. What a dream to go back to that, like. Moving along to number 4, we have Jay Leno. He spent more than 2 decades in the spotlight as the host of NBC's The Tonight Show. His success, fame, and money has given him a luxury collection of over 100 cars, but do not be fooled because he was once salting those french fries at McDonald's. He has been open about his experience and enjoys sharing his story of how he went from that minimum wage job to a lifetime of success. He said, "I worked at a restaurant on Main Street for 2 years from 1966 to 1968. The french fries had to be made from scratch. We had to cut what seemed like a ton of potatoes every day." He also said that working there taught him how important work ethic is, and that holding high standards for your work is a lesson that he will never forget. So I guess that is the key to success, you guys. Work at McDonald's. Cut french fries. Bro, you must have had to cut so many potatoes. Dang, that is some work right there.
Number 3, Ellen DeGeneres. The stand-up comedian and veteran talk show host Ellen was nicknamed the Queen of Nice, with many people loving her signature catchphrase, "Be kind to one another," as well as her on-screen giveaways and vocal support of the LGBTQ+ community. But behind the curtain, Ellen was a very different person entirely. That all got revealed in March of 2020, when podcaster Kevin T. Porter asked people to post stories about her mean-spirited behavior, which completely opened the floodgates. The comedian was then slammed by past and present employees with accusations of enabling a toxic work culture when the cameras weren't rolling, and found herself engulfed in accusations of bullying behavior by not only staffers but past guests, with some insisting her mean nature is common knowledge among the Hollywood elite. DeGeneres addressed the infamous toxic workplace scandal that saw 3 of her most senior staffers axed from The Ellen Show. One TV writer claimed that Ellen required anyone who talks to her to chew gum from a bowl outside of her office first, and that she often sends staff home to shower if she thinks they smell. Because of the negative publicity she received, the comic has had to wrap up her hit talk show after 19 seasons on air. Number 2, Armie Hammer. Among the new stars who have recently graced the big screen, Armie Hammer really stood out. He had a wholesome image with an all-American crew cut and absolutely killed it in his role as the Winklevoss twins in The Social Network. But it was his part in Call Me By Your Name that really made him a global star. Nothing is ever as it seems though, and he was very good at disguising his dark side. In January, a series of text messages were leaked of him detailing his fantasies of cannibalism. The actor also accused of attacking multiple women and named a suspect in an LAPD case which is still under criminal investigation. His former intimate partner came forward claiming that Hammer viciously attacked her over a period of 4 hours. And not long after, his wife Elizabeth Chambers left him and the facade of their perfect marriage fell apart. She has even called him a monster. The actor was then dropped out of 2 high-profile projects and is now residing in a resort on the Cayman Islands, potentially until the police investigation is concluded.
In at number 10, Margot Kidder. We mentioned Margot in our Actors That Lost Everything video, but her situation definitely merits being brought up in this one as well. Kidder was the original Lois Lane and dated some of Hollywood's leading men like Richard Pryor and even famous politicians like Pierre Trudeau. After suffering from schizophrenia and manic depression, she refused treatment, which ultimately led to her fall from grace. Plagued by paranoia, she would routinely sleep in cardboard boxes in backyards around LA in 1996. With her front teeth missing and her hair hacked off, she looked far different than her early appearances in Hollywood films. In at number 9, Sugar Ray Williams. From the late 1970s into the middle of the 1980s, Sugar Ray was the captain of the New York Knicks. He would also go on to play for the Boston Celtics for the 1985 NBA Finals. However, by the time that 2010 rolled around, the Boston Globe released a very sad report saying that Williams was found sleeping in the backseat of his 92 Buick in Florida. During an interview, Ray said that the NBA should be taking better care of their retired players, citing that he isn't the only one that needs the assistance. He would go on to say, "When I played the game, they always talked about loyalty to the team. Well, where's the loyalty and compassion for ex-players who are hurting? We open the door for these guys whose salaries are going through the roof." In at number 8, Bobby Driscoll. Bobby Driscoll rose to fame as a child star after appearing in movies like So Dear to My Heart, The Window, and Treasure Island. In 1950, he even won an Academy Award. However, 6 years later, he was arrested for marijuana and apparently for being in possession of other hard drugs as well. The saddest thing with Bobby is that much like other child stars, he quickly went from having all of the focus on him to having absolutely nothing. Not too much is known about what Bobby was doing after his arrest, but what we do know is that his body was found by 2 children in an abandoned building in New York. This was in 1968, so we're assuming that he had been living on the streets for a while at that time. In at number 7, Chris Pratt. I will forever know him as Burt Macklin, but ever since his transition from funny guy to action hero, Pratt has really made a name for himself in Hollywood. At 19 years old, Pratt accepted a one-way ticket to Maui, Hawaii from a friend. This is where he would then go on to live in a flea and mice infested van. During an interview with The Independent, he said it was pretty awesome, adding, "We just drank and smoked weed and worked minimal hours, 15 to 20 hours per week, just enough to cover gas, food, and fishing supplies." While Pratt was waiting tables at the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company in Maui, actress Ra Dawn Chong took notice of his good look and decided to cast him in her directorial debut. The film was called Curse Part 3, which is actually the script that you see Chris holding in the photo of him beside his van. When reflecting on his hard times and this massive opportunity, Chris said, "The moment she told me she was bringing me to LA, I knew. I was like, this is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life." And thank God he did. In at number 6, James Cameron. James Cameron is responsible for some of the greatest films in history. From The Terminator to The Titanic, he has had an illustrious career in the entertainment industry. Although before he made it to the big leagues, Cameron was a struggling artist. While he was writing The Terminator, he could barely make ends meet. For a little while, he was even forced to live in his car. However, at that moment, his main concern wasn't money, it was time. Despite the little experience that he had with writing a script, James was determined to get this movie made. He even attempted to pitch his Terminator script, and while most production companies liked it, they didn't want to put the amateur James Cameron in charge. James was brilliant though. Even then, he decided to partner with producer Gail Ann Hurd, who purchased the rights to his screenplay for $1 so long as she named him the director. The Terminator would go on to make $77 million worldwide. In at number 5, Jennifer Lopez. Before she was crushing it with movies and singing at the Super Bowl halftime show, J-Lo was forced to couch surf because her parents did not approve of her career choice. When she was 18 years old, she told her mother that she wanted to be a dancer, but her mom insisted that she go to college instead. So in an act of rebellion, Lopez moved out and started sleeping on the sofa at her dance studio. During an interview with W Magazine, she said, "I was homeless, but I told her this is what I have to do." And a few months later, she had landed a gig dancing in Europe, and then upon returning to LA, she booked a role on the show In Living Color. Now at 50 years old, her net worth is reported to be $400 million, earning approximately $40 million each year. In at number 3, Erin Moran. At the age of 14, Erin was a household name. Her role as Joni Cunningham on ABC's Happy Days boosted her career into the limelight. Although unfortunately for Erin, the Happy Days did not last long. After falling on hard times, the Daily Mail released an article in 2012 showing a photo of the 51-year-old being kicked out of the trailer where she was living. According to the article, Erin's husband was tired of her hard partying ways and decided to kick her out. I don't blame him. The publication reporting on that said that Erin was bouncing from motel to motel around the country trying to stay off the streets. Later that year though, her and some former castmates of Happy Days sued CBS for not paying them properly for their merchandise revenue. Eventually they settled this in court, with each receiving a payment of $65,000. In at number 2, Rocky Lockridge. Rocky Lockridge was another boxing legend. He was responsible for serving Roger Mayweather, Floyd Mayweather's uncle, with his first big loss. That first round 98-second knockout gifted him with the WBA Super Featherweight Championship. Although his decline was slow and painful to watch, Lockridge had a terrible problem with drug abuse, and while homeless he suffered from a stroke, a devastating hit to his health that would force the former champ to start walking with a cane. His family had finally had enough of his drug abuse and decided to have an intervention.
I still love you.
Yeah, that is Rocky Lockridge. Sadly, this only turned the poor man into a meme instead of rejuvenating his outlook on life. Last but not least, on our number 1 spot, Gary Glitter. Gary Glitter was an English glam rock singer that achieved great success in the music industry throughout the 1970s and into the 1980s. He was known for his extreme glam image, suits made of glitter, makeup, and platform boots. People flocked from all over to watch his energetic live performances. It was rumored at the time that he may be a pedophile, but his fans stuck by him regardless. However, upon visiting Vietnam, Gary was arrested and taken to prison for sex-related crimes against underage women, where he served 16 years in Vietnam jail. Being locked up abroad did not exactly help his glamorous image. He tried to return to normal life at his home in England, but as you can imagine, was feared and hated by all of his neighbors. The world was made aware that this guy was a huge creep, and no one wanted to raise their kids anywhere near him. In at number 10, Ringo Starr. Ringo Starr was the drummer for the Beatles, which is still considered to be one of the most successful pop groups of all time. Although before the fame that came with being a Beatle, Ringo had to struggle for most of his life with the fact that he nearly died as a young boy. At 6 years old, Ringo had appendicitis, and while undergoing the operation to remove his appendix, the tissue that lines the inner wall of his abdomen became inflamed. This would then push him into a coma for several days, and after lying unconscious in a hospital bed, things weren't looking too good for the future Beatles drummer. Just as he was getting better, disaster struck again. This time, Ringo contracted tuberculosis, forcing him into a sanatorium for 2 years. However, this is also where he discovered his love for drumming. The hospital staff had given him a makeshift mallet to drum against cabinets in his room. Upon reflecting on his shocking past, Ringo joked that he was in the hospital band first, and that from there he never wanted to do anything else. Ringo's story is a real-life example that in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. In at number 9, Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey has been making generations laugh for years with his physical comedic acting. Although before becoming a big Hollywood success, this celebrity had quite the shocking past. When Jim was only a teenager, he had to struggle with a life of abject poverty. Although Carrey's father, Percy, had been a successful accountant for many years, Percy lost his job when young Jim was only a child. The family had no income to support themselves and ended up living out of a van. Things got so bad that Jim had to drop out of high school at the age of 15 to work as a janitor and earn some extra money to keep his family afloat. Thankfully, his family managed to get back on their feet, and in 1979, Jim moved to Los Angeles to pursue his comedy and acting career. Jim would go on to become one of the biggest stars of the 90s and early 2000s with his hilarious comedic performances. After working in the comedy circuit for a while, Carrey broke out in 1994 with his roles in Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, and The Mask, all in the same year. In at number 8, Samuel L. Jackson. Not only has Samuel L. Jackson starred in some of the most popular films in movie history, including Pulp Fiction, The Avengers, and Django Unchained, he's also the #1 box office star of all time. Altogether, his movies have made over $5 billion, which becomes even more impressive when you learn about his shocking past. Jackson had a difficult childhood, which included a father that he never really knew. Jackson's father was an alcoholic, and the actor only ever met him twice in his entire life. Sam also had a run-in with the law when he was convicted for unlawful confinement, which stopped him from studying at university in the late 1960s. The craziest part about that conviction was that it was for holding Martin Luther King Jr.'s father as a hostage. After the assassination of MLK Jr., Jackson and a group of friends held the college board of trustees that included MLK Sr., and the group held them hostage and demanded that the school curriculum be reformed. The staff did eventually meet their demands and change its policy, but Jackson was still convicted with a second-degree felony. After being suspended for 2 years, he would return to earn his Bachelor of Arts in Drama in 1972.
Number 7, George Michael. His talents as a singer, songwriter, and music producer made George Michael one of the world's biggest selling artists. He has sold more than 100 million albums throughout a career spanning almost 4 decades. But behind all of his success as a musician, George had a hidden life. In 1998, after he was arrested for alleged lewd acts in a public restroom, the star came out as gay. He told CNN, quote, "This is as good of a time as any. I want to say that I have no problem with people
people knowing that I'm in a relationship with a man. After years of refusing to be drawn on speculation about his sexuality, this was a very big deal for the singer. But he made no qualms about admitting how hiding his sexuality for so many years had taken a serious toll on his mental health. In fact, the singer suffered from severe depression after his partner died in 1993 from an AIDS-related illness, and only a few years later he also lost his mother. It was extremely sad that it took him such a long time to live authentically, but he eventually became well known for his outspoken views in support of gay rights, using his arrest as a platform to highlight the prejudices within society. Number 6. Tiger Woods. Even if you're not a fan of golf, you definitely know who Tiger Woods is, one of the biggest international sports stars of the last 2 decades. In 2009, he became the first athlete to earn $1 billion through a combination of prize money and sponsorships. He seriously had it all: a model wife, 2 kids, and of course fame and fortune. But in the same year, the National Enquirer accused him of having an affair with a nightclub manager, and Woods crashed his car into a neighbor's tree at 2:25 a.m. Why the reckless driving? Well, rumors circulated that his wife had learned about the affair and attacked him in their home, which made him too disorientated to drive. Over the next few months, many more women came forward claiming to have slept with Woods during the 8 years he was with her. He eventually caved to the immense backlash and issued a televised statement in 2010 admitting to everything. But it was way too late, and his marriage was over, and some of his biggest endorsements were pulled because of the scandal. Number 5. Charlie Sheen. Known for his hard partying reputation and scandalous life, Charlie Sheen has been making headlines since the early 90s. But the actor had some pretty good PR and really managed to clean up his image after an alleged overdose that scared him straight, going on to marry Denise Richards and landing a comfy role on 2.5 Men. Sheen became a certified sitcom star and eventually welcomed 2 daughters, which really restored his reputation. But behind closed doors, the actor was back to his old habits and worse than ever. It was then that his marriage completely crumbled and the former couple announced that they were divorcing. During a bitter custody dispute later that year, she claimed that he had physically and verbally attacked her and threatened to take her life. As a result, she received a restraining order against him. He was subsequently kicked off 2.5 Men and replaced with Ashton Kutcher, not to mention his infamous 2011 meltdown where he attacked director Chuck Lorre. After that, Sheen's secret life became exceedingly public as he stopped hiding the fact that he had adult film stars over to his house and kept up his very hardcore lifestyle. It's important to note that through all this, he has checked into rehab multiple times for substance misuse and made very real attempts to get his dependency under control.
In at number 3, Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey has definitely overcome the odds to become the most powerful African-American woman in television history. Although, like many of these celebrities, the talk show host and media mogul had an extremely difficult upbringing. She has spoken about her past many times, but we're sure it never gets easier to talk about. Her childhood was plagued with both physical and sexual abuse from family members, which led to her becoming pregnant at 14 years old. Oprah's son would pass away a few weeks following his birth, and she wasn't able to break this cycle of trauma until she began to make her education a priority. Before starting a career in media, Oprah excelled in school, and eventually she would become the youngest news anchor as well as the first black female news anchor for her local news station in Nashville. From there, she would grow her career into something that no one could have ever imagined. Today, she is worth an estimated $2.6 billion, and during an interview with David Letterman, Oprah reflected on her past and said that she wouldn't change anything about her life, adding that everyone has a story and that your story is as equally as valuable and important as her story. In at number 2, Drew Barrymore. Much like Robert Downey Jr., Barrymore was introduced to alcohol and drugs at a very young age. By the time that she was 11 years old, she was already addicted to alcohol, and only a few years later she became addicted to cocaine. Drew had grown up in an acting family. Her godmothers are Sophia Loren and Anne Strasberg, while her godfather is legendary director Steven Spielberg. Although this put an immense amount of pressure on the actor, and she just couldn't cope with the attention. After appearing in E.T., her drug abuse became a favorite topic in the tabloids. At 14 years old, her partying would finally catch up to her, causing the actress to spend time in a mental institution after a suicide attempt. Although you would never know this by looking at who she has become today. Drew Barrymore is a thriving actress that has managed to overcome her demons and take over the film industry in the 1990s and early 2000s. While reflecting on her shocking past, though, she has only positive things to say. Drew believes that because she struggled with addiction in the limelight, it led to an extraordinary experience. One where she not only learned a lot, but was so embarrassed by the publicity that it made her a stronger person. Last but not least, on our number 1 spot, Charlize Theron. Before she became a world-famous actress, Charlize Theron suffered through a lot of tragedy in her childhood. childhood. While speaking with Howard Stern, she spoke openly about what it was like to grow up in a household with an alcoholic father and what it was like to deal with her mother shooting and killing her dad in self-defense. For most of her life, Charlize had to ignore her shocking past. Whenever someone asked her about her father, she had to lie and say that he was killed in a car accident. She didn't tell anyone, nor did she ever want to tell anyone what had actually happened. Imagine holding that traumatic secret not only for yourself, but for your mother as well. During the talk with Stern, she said that she never wanted to feel like a victim, which is why she avoided telling that story for so long, adding, "I struggled with that for many years until I actually started therapy." Charlize is not ashamed of what her mother had to do in order to protect them though. She believes that the more we talk about these things, the more we realize we are not alone in any of it. For her, she just looks at it as a life lesson, a story about growing up with an alcoholic and what that does to a person.
Kicking off our countdown list at number 10 is Pink. Back in 2015, the pop star did an interview with Food and Wine and talked about her past experience working at the fast food joint and said that it made her feel like Janet Jackson. Now, most people wouldn't see flipping burgers as like the ideal job, but Pink said that earning a paycheck while eating quarter pounders and drinking strawberry shakes made her feel like a superstar at the time. She said, "It was important to my family that I make my own money. I was a drive-thru girl at McDonald's. I had a Janet Jackson microphone. I had power." Honestly, I totally get where she's coming from because I used to wear that headset at the Tim Hortons drive-thru, and I'm not gonna lie, you kind of feel like Beyonce a little bit. Like you feel like you're on stage. I probably sang to some people as well. Up next, number 9 is James Franco. In 2015, McDonald's was struggling with declining US sales and announced this extensive turnaround plan. And who was there to come to their defense? James Franco. He said an iconic quote about the fast food company, saying, "McDonald's was there for me when no one else was." How beautiful and romantic is that? He wrote up a long endorsement in the Washington Post and said that in the late 90s he was a struggling actor living in LA and got fired from his other jobs at a coffee shop and a golf course. He wasn't booking any acting jobs, so he started working at the drive-thru at McDonald's and used it to actually practice his foreign accents on customers. Fun fact, he was even a vegetarian when he started working there. The actor says that he loved his job. He said, "I also put tons of salt on the French fries because that's how I like them." Respect, James. Everyone likes those salty ass fries. However, he left McDonald's because he was able to book a Super Bowl commercial with Pizza Hut. Rolling into number 8 spot is Pharrell Williams. In 2015, the singer opened up about his experience as a McDonald's employee and admitted that he was fired from them 3 times for being lazy. He said, "The only thing I was good at while working there was eating chicken nuggets." He said that he was fired from 3 different locations and was surprised that the company even took him back each time. But in a funny turn of events, later down the road, he went on to become a pop star and co-wrote Justin Timberlake's song "I'm Lovin' It," which was adapted by the company as their slogan. Also, it is one of the most famous jingles of all time. Like, how crazy is that? Like, what a full circle moment that would be. That is like me writing the jingle for Tim Hortons. Not that I can, not that I will, but that's comparable. That's what it'd feel like.
At number 7, we have Cardi B. Now, if you search Cardi B on the internet, it will give you endless results about her career and how she started. However, it's clear that this star is definitely living her best life, and we're all here for it. Her hit song, Bodak Yellow, definitely didn't make it a secret that she was actually a stripper before she decided to change her career path to become a musician she is today. At the age of 18, after losing her job, the star decided to become an exotic dancer after the person firing her told her to do so. When she started, she knew she was going to make money and that the career was going to pay more than any other. The star would then quit dancing by the time she was 23 and would then become a global icon in rapping. At number 6 today, we have Azealia Banks. Rapper, singer, actress, and writer Azealia Banks began her career on MySpace back in 2008. Later that year, she would be signed to XL Recordings when she was just 18 years old. However, her breakthrough wouldn't come until 2011. And her single 212 would break the internet and enter several international charts. However, before she started her music career, Azealia actually used to work at the strip club. Azealia even said that she used to work at the strip club and it was her lowest point, but she needed money fast and she felt like she was such a chicken in the strip club. And it wasn't her thing at all, and she was actually only there for 2 weekends and then quit because her song 212 blew up. At number 5, we have Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga definitely knows how to make heads turn, and before she gave us the iconic song A Poker Face and Born This Way, the singer was actually a stripper. After dropping out of NYU, she moved out of her parents' house, and to support herself, she began working as a waitress during the day and a stripper at night. Gaga turned to stripping because her personality was bold and strong, and her sense of sexuality and her love for the human body made her feel confident. Gaga has even revealed to the World's Fabulous magazine that her act was wild, and she would wear black leather while dancing to rock and roll. She's also stated that she made more money stripping than she did waiting tables. Number 4, we have Javier Bardem. According to Javier, he started stripping as a joke, however, he got hired to do it again. He stated that while he was performing, it was a disaster, and his mother and sister were out in the crowd to support him. On Ellen, Javier would say that he was 20 at the time, and after he got hired to perform, he was so nervous that he called up his mom and sister to accompany him to the club. When it was time for Javier to perform, he stated that there was only 3 people in the club. He was embarrassed, however, since he was a performer and he gave his word to do the show, he ultimately decided to do the show and became a stripper for the day.
Alright guys, at number 3 is Seal. The singer has sold over 20 million records worldwide, but at the beginning of his career, he was a McDonald's employee, and he absolutely hated it. When speaking about his experience, he said, "The worst job I ever had was in McDonald's in Kentish Town. I stayed 2 weeks until I got my first paycheck, then I was out of there." I think he holds the record for the shortest amount of time at a job. But I'm not gonna lie, I like his idea of working the 2 weeks so that he could at least get a paycheck out of it. Like, that's kinda smart. He didn't really explain why he hated it so much, just simply said that he did. He only lasted 2 weeks, so I kinda feel like something maybe happened. Like, I don't know, it couldn't have been that bad within your first 2 weeks. But hey, McDonald's I guess isn't for everyone, and fast food is hard. Customers are crazy. Coming in hot at number 2 is Rachel McAdams. In 2012, the beautiful actress revealed that she used to work at McDonald's when she was just 16 years old. Unlike Seal, she actually really liked it and lasted a couple of years. She talked about it and said, "I worked at McDonald's for a good 3 years. I was not a great employee. I broke the orange juice machine one day. It was a great place to work, but I had a little bit of an OCD thing with hand washing and just didn't have the time anymore." I mean, a hand washing addiction is not a bad thing to have when you're handling people's food. I worked at Tim Hortons, y'all, for 7 years. 7. I'm not lying. I was even promoted to supervisor at one point. So if you think 3 years at fast food is a lot, I was at 7 in 2 different cities in Ontario. Winning that number 1 spot on our countdown is T-Pain. This one is an exception on this list because he almost ended up working at McDonald's over a music career, and his story is just too cool not to share, you guys. During an interview in 2007, he was asked if there was a time he ever thought about giving up on his musical dreams. He said yes, and said it was the day that he went to pick up an application from McDonald's. He was in a horrible place financially and said it was to a point where he was actually eating mayonnaise out of a jar and would sit in front of McDonald's asking people to buy him a cheeseburger. He was basically at his ends, and he literally physically went to go grab an application from the restaurant. He said, "I'd been hanging out in front of there so much, I knew the managers and all. I had no problem getting a job or anything. I went to go get the application, and that's when Akon called me." What are the odds of that? The singer and producer stepped in at like the right time and actually signed him to his label, Convict Music. Pretty freaking sweet.